some of the moments that I've captured over the 9 years that I've done Young Life. They're not all good. It's a struggle. With high schoolers and middle schoolers, they're in a war. I don't know if you guys are aware of the world they live in, but it's probably one of the most challenging times in history to be a teenager. But you know, as I was thinking about some of the moments that I've witnessed over the years, I thought, you know, a moment doesn't mean a lot unless you know the 1,000 moments that led up to that moment. And so I'm going to give you some little snapshots and try to give you a little bit of history. But I thought, man, that really represents Young Life really well, because these leaders, they don't just come up here and do a program on a Monday night. They share life with these kids. And so it's not just a moment that they're there. They're in for the long haul. So the moments really have weight for our leaders. And so I've been there for 1,000 bad moments, but then when you get to the one good moment that changes everything, it just makes all the bad part of the story, you know? And somehow God works that together for good. So a couple moments that I've witnessed. One of my favorites was not long ago at summer camp. Camp is a real big part of Young Life. It's a week, best week of your life. Kids are away from distractions back home, no cell phones, and leaders go with them for the whole week, and we get to share the full truth about Jesus. And a couple summers ago, I had a friend who had a really bad year. I believe he's a sophomore in high school, and just a lot of junk leading up to that. He didn't even think he was going to get to go to camp, but because of some generous donors, we gave him scholarship money and got him to go to camp. Camp costs about $525 for a kid to go, and that's our cost, and we're not even charging them for the bus. But it's an amazing week. And this kid had a really rough year. His parents were threatening divorce. He was an older brother, had a lot of brothers and sisters, and he had to be kind of the grown-up for a while. And so he was having to look out for his siblings, and he was really depressed, really just in a real hopeless place. And I could see it weighing on him every time I saw him. I could see just his eyes get heavy. It was just, he was carrying this weight with him all year. He gets to go to camp. I call this, by the way, freedom by fireworks. He goes to camp. We have one night at camp where it's just this all-out night. We have an amazing meal. We do club. Club is where we do like games and skits, music, have fun. You hear a talk. Then later we had this giant dance party with glow sticks for like 20 minutes of just going crazy. You think the night's over, and it's not. You go down to the pool, and 550 kids get in a swimming pool and throw like 1,000 beach balls at each other, and they make like this huge jacuzzi out of the swimming pool where they just go in circles. Nobody drowns. It's amazing. It's crazy. And then you think it's over, and then it's still not over. They have this giant fireworks display that lights up the end of the night. It's like, it's magical, you know? And I didn't get in the pool because it was like 20 degrees and I was not gonna get in the pool. So I used the excuse of I'm videoing. So I'm out on the side videoing, and the fireworks come up and it's dark, but I'm just sitting there watching the kids. And this kid that I was telling you about, he's closest to me, and it's dark. And then I see the firework burst, and I see the glow on his face, and he's just in the moment, you know. He's being a kid. Like I see it on his face. He's free, probably for the first time all year. And I'm just like, oh man, he's getting to be a kid again, you know? Like he hasn't got to be a kid all year long. And it goes dark, and then I see another glow, and I can't take my eyes off because I'm witnessing this, like, this moment, you know, where he's just free, and he has hope, and he has life for the first time, you know, all year. That's one of my favorite moments. Another one comes several years ago. At camp, we do this thing called Quantum Leap, and it's this telephone pole that's taller than the ceiling here. It's probably, you know, 25 feet tall. And what you do is you climb up the telephone pole all the way to the top, and then you stand on top of the telephone pole. You have a harness. It's not like we're just letting kids jump. And so you have a harness and you're strapped in, but it's pretty scary. And I'm telling you, this platform is no bigger than the telephone pole. It's like this. So it's really challenging. And when you get up there, it starts kind of shaking a little bit, you know? It's really scary. So one summer, we had this group of girls going, and all the girls say, I'm not doing it, no shot. But we're always like, no, you're going to try. You're going to at least try. So we had this one girl who, she was like, I'm not going to do it. I can't do it. There's no way. I can't. And we're like, you got to try. So she gets up. She goes like 3 steps up. She says, I'm coming back down. I'm like, no, you can keep going. Keep going. She goes up a little more. She's about halfway. She's like, I'm coming back down. I can't do it. We're like, come on, you can do this. I'm telling you, you can do this. And this is what I call it, when you don't give up. So she eventually gets all the way to the top of the pole. And we're like yelling and screaming. Her whole cabin's down there yelling for her, like, you can do this. Get on top. You can do this. Now this girl, she's not the most athletic. Just physically, she just doesn't have, you know, and in fact, I realized halfway through as I'm yelling, I don't think she really can do this, you know? And I'm telling you, we're like, we've been here, but she's at a point now where she's like, I'm not giving up. And we've been screaming for maybe 45 minutes for her to get up. Everybody's waiting, but the cabin's not abandoning her. She's not giving up. And God's like, hey, you don't believe she can do this. Why should she believe she can do this? And I'm like, oh, you're right, you know. And so I'm like, God, I don't know what I'm thinking. Like, nothing's impossible with you. And so I just start praying for her. I'm like, God, give her strength. Like, help her do this supernaturally. You're right. I don't think she can do it, but of course she could do it with you, you know. So we're like over an hour in at this point, and she stands up. She stands on top of the pole. Everybody goes crazy. I don't have a voice. Like, I'm like, you know, like, and she jumps off, and like, that was a game changer for her, because she saw, like, the things that I think are impossible, the things I think I can't do, that I'm not capable of, I might actually be capable of. I might actually can do it. And I remember, like, for her, one of the things was with God. Like, I don't know that I could have that relationship with God, but it was a game changer for her. And I believe it's stuck with her whole life. And I think it applies across the board. From jobs to friendships, everything. So then, another camp story. One of my best friends, I met him. Actually, we were going to a fifth quarter, and fifth quarter was what you do after football games, and we do them at local churches. And I think this was at either Redeemer or Central. So I give this kid a ride home afterwards, and he doesn't really know who I am. Well, he knows who I am. He came to Wildlife, but I didn't really know him. But he didn't really know what I was about, you know what I'm saying? So he's riding in the back, and he starts talking about getting with these girls, and he's looking for me to be like, yeah, way to go, but like, he doesn't know what I'm about. So I'm like, okay, you know, that was kind of my first talk with him. So I start in this process of building a relationship with him where he just starts knocking these walls down and sharing. And he comes from a really rough background, had a really rough go of it coming up. One thing that I never witnessed, though, as I talked with him, was emotion. I never saw him get upset or anything. So we're at camp. We have this night where they share the cross. They share where Jesus comes to the cross and dies for your sins. And sometimes they show clips from Passion, and then they give kids time to process it. So we're on that night at camp, and I'm like, God, I want this kid to cry. I'm like, God, just break his heart. Like what? I don't know what that looks like, but I want him to feel. I want him to cry. I want him to cry tonight. I've never prayed that before, by the way. I don't usually pray that, but I knew he had these emotional walls up that couldn't get there. So we go out. It was a great talk. We go out, have 15 minutes of quiet time, right? And we're sitting there, across the camp, 500 kids under the stars, but clouds are rolling in. It's about to rain. I'm like, God, please don't let it rain. Literally, as I sat there, I could see like clouds surround camp, and it was just a hole in the sky above camp for us to have stars. Then all these lightning bugs just come out, like hundreds of lightning bugs. They haven't been out all week, and they just all come out while kids are sitting there praying. So the bell rings to go back, and we go back in the cabin. As soon as we get in the cabin, it starts pouring down rain. We start talking about our experience, and I look over in the corner, and my friend is balled up in the corner. And as we start talking, I realize he's over there weeping right now. He couldn't even talk the entire time we were sharing. And everybody left, and I came over there, and I was like, I got to get you like rolls of toilet paper right now. And he said, I don't know why. He said, Eddie, I've seen that video, I've heard that talk 100 times, but for some reason, tonight, I felt it. And in his quiet time, he realized that God had answered his prayers about a new family. And he said, I just kept saying, I'm sorry, God. I'm sorry, God. I'm sorry, God. And his life's different now. Completely different now. I've seen bad things too. I've seen kids come in here full of life and potential, and you can see it in their eyes, full of personality. One kid in particular, I really related to because he found humor in everything. I was like, this is a little Eddie right here. Like, he's going to be class clown, all that stuff, full of life. And as he started getting older, he would start coming less and less, and he started hanging around, I'm not going to say the wrong crowd, because it was kids just like him, but they just started getting into, smoking weed, and from weed it went to other stuff. And as I'd see him, as he'd come time after time, I'd just start seeing the light in his eyes just start dimming, and his personality just started being so even and just not himself, not who he was created to be. And my heart breaks every time that I see him, because I saw the potential, like I saw who he could be. Now there's still hope, but gosh, it crushes me every time that I see him. But I've gotten to see kids go from completely hopeless to hopeful. I've heard, just in the last week, I've heard multiple stories about students who were on the brink of suicide, who said, I just didn't, my life just wasn't worth anything. And were turned around and now have full life. I get to see it, which is awesome to be able to witness a kid go from one to the other. And, I hear a lot of people complain. I hear a lot of people doing a lot of complaining about the problems in the world, and I hear people complaining about this next generation and what they're going to be, but I don't see a lot of people doing something. But like every Sunday night, I see a group of leaders get together and intentionally plan, how are we going to reach high schoolers in the community? I see a group of high schoolers come together and college students come together once a month and plan and pray for middle schoolers and say, how are we going to reach middle schoolers? Not how are we going to build up some kids who already know Jesus. How are we going to reach the furthest out? And they pray for them. And they give up their Saturday nights. High schoolers and college students give up their Saturday nights to be with middle schoolers. What? Like, that doesn't happen, right? And they're doing something. Hey, we've got a group of kids that come together on Wednesdays that have seen, like, this life's not just about us. And so they sponsor a girl in Tanzania. Her name's Hapendeki. They get together, and I'm not talking about rich kids. I'm talking about kids who are scraping by. They pull their money together so that a girl in Tanzania can get an education, can have food, can have clean drinking water, and can hear about Jesus. Kids are doing this. We don't pay it. The kids pay it. They get it together. In Tanzania, you know, they make roughly $900 a year. That's average. $900 a year. And we have kids here that are helping there. And the small group that you heard about, that Jared talked about, that he's in, those guys decided, well, we love this so much, we need to give it back away. And so they're starting their own groups. So we've got new groups starting from the kids that were in the old groups. They're starting that. They're the ones that are leading it. They're leading their friends. They're going after their friends. But here's the thing. It's not leaders that make the change. And Jared said it. He said, Young Life didn't change me, but I changed through Young Life. It's not leaders. We're just vessels. We're just carrying the hope. We carry Christ. And I can't say it any better than the scriptures say it. So I'll read you 1 Corinthians 4. This is the Message version. But this is how we feel. Remember, our message is not about ourselves. We're proclaiming Jesus Christ, the Master. All we are is messengers, errand runners from Jesus for you. It started when God said, light up the darkness, and our lives filled up with light as we saw and understood God in the face of Christ, all bright and beautiful. If you only look at us, you might well miss the brightness. We carry this precious message around in unadorned clay pots of our ordinary lives. That's to prevent anyone from confusing God's incomparable power with us. As it is, there's not much chance of that. You know for yourselves that we're not much to look at. I didn't even add that. But I know you knew that. We've been surrounded and battered by troubles, but we're not demoralized. We're not sure what to do, but we know that God knows what to do. We've been spiritually terrorized, but God hasn't left our side. We've been thrown down, but we haven't broken. What they did to Jesus, they do to us. Trial and torture, mockery and murder. What Jesus did among them, he does in us. He lives. Our lives are at constant risk for Jesus' sake, which makes Jesus' life all the more evident in us. While we're going through the worst, you're getting in on the best. We're not keeping this quiet, not on your life, just like the psalmist who wrote, I believed it, so I said it. We say what we believe. And what we believe is that the one who raised up the Master Jesus will certainly raise us up with you alive. Every detail works to your advantage and to God's glory. More and more grace, more and more people, more and more praise. So we're not giving up. How could we? Even though on the outside it often looks like things are falling apart on us, on the inside where God is making new life, not a day goes by without his unfolding grace. These hard times are small potatoes compared to the coming good times, the lavish celebration prepared for us. There's far more than meets the eye. The things we see now are here today, gone tomorrow, but the things we can't see now will last forever. So, my question is, what about you? Because I was a lot like Jared. Although I had great parents, I don't know what it's like to grow up without a great mom and dad. I went to church, and I thought I was good. I thought I'm a Christian because you go every Sunday. But probably in 11th grade, I started asking questions again. And I kind of thought, like, God is like a big Santa Claus, you know? He knows when you're naughty and nice. He keeps society in check. I don't really need that, you know? So I walked away. I was like 99% sure there was no God. 11th grade till I graduated college, which, by the way, is a growing trend. Then I saw something different. And I'm not going to share my whole testimony. You're welcome to ask me later. But through some supernatural events, I met this God. And I have a relationship with this God. And for me, it didn't make sense. Like, if God is real and He loves us and He created life, then how could you just be like a Sunday Christian? Like, how could you be partially in? It would make no sense. You'd have to be all in, because if God created life, He knows the best way to live it, right? So for me, it just didn't make any sense. If God's real, I'm all in. And so I was all in. And, you know, they say it's better to give than to receive, and it's true. Like, giving my life away these past 9 years, 10 years, I've been a Christian now for probably 10 years. I've been a follower of Jesus. That's what the word means. For a little over 10 years. Giving my life away has filled me up more than anything else ever had in my life. I didn't even know I had emptiness in here until I got it full. So, I know there's different people from different places in your own journey, but I want to invite you to give away your life. I want to invite you to reconsider maybe what you think about God, or what you think about yourself, and how that all looks. So a couple things. One, you're going to have an opportunity in just a minute to contribute to Young Life in some way, shape, or form. Now, you can do that financially. A lot of people, you know, like our kids on Wednesday night, they don't feel like they can go to Tanzania, or they don't feel like they're called to go to Tanzania, but they're like, we can do something about it with our money. Like, we can pool our money together and do that. So if you're a person who's like, that high school world, that's a different world. I'm telling you, you've got missionaries here in this community that are going after these high schoolers. And so if you're a person who says, I don't connect with that generation, I don't know that I can pour into them in that way, then financially, that's a great way to tap in. None of this is free, and like I said, camp is a huge thing that changes lives, and it's super expensive for kids. What I'd really love, though, is if you guys would all pray for us, and pray for us consistently. So I'd say, if you're going to give financially, instead of doing like a one-time big donation, do like a recurring monthly, like break that down into some smaller recurring monthly gifts. That way, when it comes out on your credit card statement, you can see it and you can be like, I need to pray for them. I need to remember I'm connected to this. I'm a part of this ministry. I need to pray for them. Another way is we have another group. I told you about the group that comes together and says, how are we going to reach high schoolers and how are we going to reach middle schoolers? We have a group of adults in the community, our Young Life Committee. Committee, could you like raise your hand? Committee members? Yeah. A lot of y'all probably got invited by committee members. They come together once a month and plan and say, how can we support these leaders and how can we help to continue this ministry and do some of the behind the scenes stuff? So being a part of that committee, that might be a way that you, maybe just being a voice for Young Life in the community. But really, I want you guys to walk away with hope for the next generation. And it's so much bigger than Young Life. Young Life's just a tool. I want the kingdom to grow. And so my prayer is that that happens in you. I think we're all at different places, but there's always a next step. And so my prayer is that you leave tonight and you get ready to take your next step in that journey. Table hosts, if you could grab the big envelope and pass around, make sure everybody at your table gets a small envelope that's in the big envelope. There's some small envelopes in the big envelope. If you could pass those around. And there's pens on your table. We'd like for you guys all to turn one of these cards in, whether you give anything or whether you commit to anything or not. Just put your envelope back in the big envelope. So there's no pressure. Don't think that like, oh, I'm not giving, so everybody's going to judge me. Everybody's going to put the small envelope back in the big envelope at the end. But I'm going to give you guys a few minutes just to do that. and we're gonna play a little bit of background music. And once you've done it, I'd say like close your eyes and talk to God wherever you're at. So you can play that music.